There you
So,
go.
hello and welcome back to the show, and welcome back to the big interview. And I'm very excited this time around to have Alex Buckner on the show. Welcome, Alex.
Thank you for having me.
Alex, you are a renowned short game specialist, a very young, from the outside, very young and successful coach, doing a
Oh,
great job
trying to.
trying to. And ever since we've met, and I've also been a huge admirer of the business aspect. And as you know, this podcast and this show is sort of trying to sort of pick your brain and the top coaches in the world on how they run their business, not just how they coach. And I'm very excited tonight to listen to that aspect as well, to understand how you've built a successful business and help those coaches out there who are maybe looking for ideas on how they can move their coaching business forward, or even like yourself, looking to specialize in a part of the game. And for those guys out there that maybe don't know enough about you, could you give us a little short introduction to who you are and what you're doing?
Yeah, I'll try to. But I'm really thought about this. So, as you know, Alex Buckner. I'm 27 years old. Been a full-time coach now for 4 years. I think I've been now. So not very long. Was a PGA pro, just working in a pro shop that took a keen liking to coaching along the side, and then took the big leap into then being a full-time coach. I've done 4 seasons now on the DP World Tour, coached at some major championships, coached, uh, I think, 6 or 7 winners across the tours, helped someone graduate in all 4 years that I've been coaching full time across from Challenge Tour to DP. Uh, and yeah, I specialized in short game along that journey to where I am now.
That's amazing. 4 years, 4 years
Yeah,
out the blocks. And I believe you're the youngest ever fellow of the PGA, is that right?
that's correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully advanced fellow soon, but yeah,
That's
yeah,
that's
fingers
amazing.
crossed.
So how do you go from being in a pro shop then to suddenly within 4 years, well, less than 4 years, becoming a short game specialist and having access and the trust of sort of some of the best players in the world?
Yeah, right, exactly. Because what was I, 22 when I started like looking at the idea. Um, so I was trying to gain trust from people at 22 years of age, which sounds absolutely balmy. But
Mhm.
at that time, I was quite a qualified PGA pro that was looking to be a head pro or a GM. And I remember going to an assistant GM interview, and they laughed me out the door. And they're like, "Well, we're not going to take you seriously until you're 30." So I was already trying to brag my way into the idea, or sorry, blag my way into the idea of people trusting me at a stupid age. So I was quite used to that. But I ended up then going down the coaching route, and I was just teaching a lot of club golfers, and I wanted to get into the pro route. So the easiest way to do that and gain trust was to try and specialize in something and know a bit more about an area and just be really, really good in an area. And I was thinking, well, if I can do that, then people will trust me. If I know
Mhm.
more than someone else and know more than most people in a big enough area, in a small area of the game, then I'll gain some trust. As a result, then also I looked at it and the side of, well, how many people do this side of the game? And at that period in time, even there just wasn't that many. I could only really name one or two. So I was like, well, it's not a lot of competition there. So if that person can't go and see that person and you can't go and see this person, well, you ain't got no other option if you're
Mhm.
looking for someone that's really knowledgeable in this area. So, I mean, that's just, simple business, that isn't it, right? Supply and
Absolutely.
demand. So,
A niche market, isn't it?
yeah, right. And not only that, I picked something that I believe that only good players really seeked for. So there was less people to go up against. Good players seeked advice in that area. So two and two went together quite easy. And then at the time, there generally wasn't like loads and loads and loads of information on it. So it was quite easily to rattle through the little information that there was.
Hmm.
So, so yeah, once I did that, again, what I just said earlier, what happened was there was a lot of up and coming pros that showed some potential, but they couldn't get in with these two guys that I was on about. They were too busy. They were working with, some big athletes. So by the time they got ignored by this guy and this guy, it was like, well, it's going to filter down to me because I'm the only other person that exists at this point.
Hmm.
So then it happened. Someone came through, potential good enough player. And don't get me wrong, you have to back it up with some coaching skills, and they actually have to,
They have to improve.
perform well. Yeah, they actually have to
Yeah.
improve. So you actually have to do the job. The theory was all good, but I actually did the job as well, which was nice. And then they graduated onto tour. So it was like, okay, all these things came together, and then because then he made it onto tour, and then he started doing quite well. All of a sudden, the pool of people that he started then accessing then led to then another pool of people that I couldn't access to begin with. And
Hmm.
then it just rattled from there effectively.
So a
You
little bit
play
of word of mouth as well, like through
well,
word of mouth, would you say? Or people would look at the tour players and say, well, he's doing excellent. Who's coaching him? And then it would come to you, or
uh, there's quite a lot of things going on all at the same time. And this is what I feel like people don't understand. People go, well, yeah, it's just word of mouth. It's like, no, 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 no. There's loads of things going on here, right?
Mhm.
Um, who else are you going to go to? So, there's not a lot of choice. So that's ruling in my favor, number one. Number two, okay, yeah, the word of mouth. People have said a few nice things about me. Or number three, people start performing,
Yeah,
whether there's a word of mouth or not. Who the hell is that guy saying? Number four then is what you call it, the touch points.
yeah.
So, for example, if you were to turn around and say, "Oh yeah, I think Alex is quite good. I think you should go and see him," you don't book in with me straight away. So how would you put it? The example that I always give is if I was to say, Adam, go and book this hotel. Me and my wife went there and it was bloody brilliant. You don't go and book that hotel from my word of mouth. You could look on Google, you look at the
Mhm.
reviews, you look at the photos, and if the photos are crap and the reviews are non-existent and the website's rubbish, you don't go and book that hotel, no
It's
matter
true.
how good my word of mouth is. So my touch points all led in a row to what the word of mouth was. So everything all sort of synced up. There's other things too that come into play as well, like being seen quite a lot, um, teaching other people that connect with that other person.
Mm.
A lot of people that come my way, it's almost like, you know, months and months and months of touch points that
Yeah.
it's almost a bit like, all right, well, everything's pointing me in this direction now,
A
so I'm
journey
going to go to
almost. Oh,
this.
well, a funnel, we would call it a funnel, wouldn't we? A business
A
funnel, but
funnel,
it's
yeah,
almost like a journey to end up with
yeah.
you. But how are you aware of these things, Alex? Because, like, I obviously specialize in this area and I can follow you 100%. I can see the journey in my mind. But at what point do you turn around and say, well, I need a really classy, good website that's easy to navigate, that shows off my skills. I need good touch points. I need lead magnets. And how did you come to these? You're absolutely right, of course, but how do you come to that?
So I went to this. It was one of my friends. He's a PT, and we'll get onto that subject in a second because PTs, the fact that they can get someone to come multiple times in the week and you pay them to do something that you can do without their tuition is mind-boggling. So how golf coaches struggle, I have no idea. But we'll get to that subject in a second. So anyway, my friend who's a PT, he took me to a free seminar on marketing in
Right.
business in London. And I thought, don't want to go. It's basically I don't want to make it sound bad, but it's immigrants of London that are looking for a way in to find a job to do whatever, right?
That
And
was the
these
idea of the seminar. Yeah. Okay.
that correct, exactly, right? So, which I didn't know until I got there, so I actually found that quite interesting.
Hmm.
It was what's the actual business term where you basically throw a fishing rod in? They're fishing and they're the
Yeah.
bait effectively, right? To go into their scheme. But the marketing points were actually really, really good. And they were basically, their whole thing was on the idea is what do businesses sell the same thing. So imagine you got into the pen market and you can obviously upgrade the pen in certain ways to make your pen look better, right? But more often than not, the fact that we actually buy pens that from a company and another company sells exactly the same pen
Yeah.
all the time. So what made you buy the pen from this specific company over that
The
one?
Mont Blanc. Why did you buy the Mont Blanc pen?
Yeah, yeah, correct, right? Let's
Yeah.
call it that. There's various websites that do it. I get told from my uh, father-in-law and including my parents, but definitely father and mother-in-law, all the time to buy from John Lewis.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, John Lewis buy so exactly the same things as bloody Amazon. So why on earth would I do that? And they go, what? But it's all about the warranty or whatever it might be. So at the end of the day, what they're trying to say is they sell exactly the same thing. Here's two examples, but this first example has no ratings, and the second example have ratings, and they've got customer feedback. What website do you buy the pen from? And everyone was obviously like, well, yeah, the one with the feedback. And then they just done various examples of this. One of them has a website, one of them has a phone number. Which one do you buy from?
Yeah.
The one with the website, because I want a phone number. And they just kept on doing it. And I was like, holy shit, yeah, that's so true. And then it was, when people talk about USPs, which, they're like, oh yeah, if you can have a USP and the rest of it, but they are USPs.
Yeah.
And it's not about having one USP. You're looking for loads. It's how many things can you have over the competitor.
Right.
So that's how I viewed it all. It was like, well, if I can have better photos than the guy next door, I've got one thing over him. If I could have a website that functions a bit better than him, I've got another thing over him. And I just kept on doing that. And I just kept on building this massive list where I just had everything over everyone in my area. I know that sounds quite arrogant, but it's true because
Well, at
I've
least that
made
was
it.
your aim. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That was my point. And this was before I specialized in short game. And before you know it, I was the busiest coach in my area by a country mile. And it did not take that long.
Yeah.
But I had all these things going for me over this idea of what do I have over you?
Yeah. I mean,
And I just made it.
that's really interesting because it's like that is the true essence of marketing. That is the
Yeah,
true essence of marketing. If you strip everything away, it's the two pens and who markets and sells the pen better.
yeah.
Even if they do the same thing. But the difference also being is you backed it up hugely with them performing as well.
Well, I think as coaches, what we do a good job of is improving the pen. We keep on trying to upgrade the model of the pen. So upgrading my coaching, upgrading how well I do it, can I simplify the way I do things to gain a bigger result? I feel like we search for a lot of things in order to upgrade what we do. What we don't do though is we don't sell it very well.
Yeah.
So my product probably wasn't that great. That was the funny thing about it, especially when I started out.
Yeah.
It's still not great if you compare it to Butch Harmon. Who knows? I don't know that to be fair, but CV/time and all the rest of it says so. So let's
Yeah.
just assume that. But the thing is the fact that you've got a product and how well you sell it, and they're two completely individual things here. But more or less, most people from a day-to-day basis and most coaches are selling exactly the same thing all the time. And what they're not understanding is the fact that how to sell that thing better.
So would that be if I'm like a young coach listening to this now and I'm just starting my journey, and obviously I also work with coaches that, just beginning their journey, don't even have one email list or anything yet. Is what you've just said, would that be your advice to them in terms of like, look at your competitors and try to be better than them? Or would you go even a step further back at the beginning and say like, you need to get your fundamentals of X, Y, and Z in before you do that? Like if I've just started my coaching career.
Yeah, I think you got to do a bit of everything, so hand in hand. I won't worry about the emailing list. I never done one personally. Um, but again, that will go back down to the PT thing in a second. But we'll get to that. So I know what the questions are coming out. But the where was I heading with this? Yeah, so what to start off with? you got to remember the fact that the idea is people turn around and say you need experience to coach. I got told that all the time. And I'm not very experienced. Now, I'm rich in experience just because of the experience that now I have done in such a short space of time.
Yeah.
But to begin with, it obviously I had nothing. And everyone was just saying, look, teach loads, teach loads, teach loads. But in my opinion, I was much more under the understanding of, well, if I have experience over an idea of knowledge of what I need to gain experience on, then the experience will be therefore greater
Yeah.
or worth more. So I do think the fact that just being a total salesman doesn't necessarily work because
Hmm.
you're probably going to have a really high turnover, which is obviously not what you want. The idea is hopefully to teach as little people as possible while earning the most amount of money. For me, that's the goal anyway.
Yeah.
So um, from there, then definitely focus on that, but don't solely focus on that. Otherwise, you won't earn a penny. You might be really good, but you won't sell anything.
You still
And
need to be able to sell. Yeah.
yeah, life's expensive, right? So
Mm.
you do need to focus on the other stuff, and the other stuff. Looking at your competitors isn't a bad thing. So I'm redoing my studio at work at the moment, and the first thing I did was look at videos of Mark Blackburn and not him, but what's behind him, what's in that
Facility.
studio.
Yeah.
What technology has he got in there? What's around the walls? What's the view like? What's the range like? Um, what does he have? Now there's coffee cups kicking around. There's logos everywhere. He's got mirrors. He's got shelves with equipment on. The list goes on, right? So I'm looking at things that I'm thinking, well, he's got these things over me. So, it doesn't sit well with me. So therefore, you know what, I'm going to match him. But, that's sort of the idea. That's where my head's going. Now, I'm
Yeah.
not saying you need to take it to that extent, but when I started out, I was like, well, what do other people not have? Now, in the area that I was teaching at the time, you couldn't use a premium bull, not on the range, not in the short game area, nowhere. I was like, well, I would quite like to use one personally.
Hmm.
So I spoke to each manufacturer and I made sure I had Pro V1, Pro V1X, Chrome Soft X, TP5, TP5X. Yeah, 6 bags of just, the shag bags.
Yeah.
And I'd ask people when they came in, what ball do you play? Because if you're going to chip, I want to know what ball you're playing so then you can build the actual touch that you're going to go and play on the golf course. That went a long way, just
Mm.
purely for the fact that they've never been asked that.
It's a great service.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably in the reality doesn't mean a lot, but there's a good saying that, sayings are sayings for a reason, is they don't remember what you said, but they remember how you made them feel.
Yeah.
And that was just
Yeah.
a really, really good point to like start off the lesson.
Hmm.
And it was like, holy shit, all right, cool.
Yeah.
It was a good one. I remember like coaching softwares weren't a thing. So I've made sure the fact that I've done coaching software and everything was all put into one place. There was a library and people could see the videos. That's not really a USP anymore. Generally, people are doing that. But again, that was another. People had launch monitors, but therefore I needed to go and get one. I was
Yeah.
like, well, fine, I'm going to get one. Did I use it that much? No, not really. There was other things too, like business cards, recommend a friend. And I also did a questionnaire at the beginning of the first session I ever had with them that led to specific goals on how they evaluated their game. I'd understand their goal, what they wanted to work on, and I'd understand if they actually matched or not. And when
Hmm.
I made them aware of the fact that generally what they wanted to work on didn't match with lowering their handicap, they thought about things a little bit differently. They therefore got better. The service was better. If you can get players better while service is greater, it's not a bad recipe.
Yeah. And you've obviously invested in yourself with the technology, with the balls, and because there'll be also coaches listening to this will be thinking, well, I can't afford that. I'd like to be able to do that, and I'd like to have all the technology, but may
Well,
at the
there's a lot of things that you can do cheaply. So
Yeah,
how would you put it? The whole ball thing regarding the reps, because no one ever asked for it, it was actually free at the time.
yeah. I can imagine they're probably
So
so shocked.
they were like, "What the fuck are you on about?" And I was like, "Yeah, I want to do that." They're like, "Yeah, right, fine." So yeah, they were pretty shocked. And business cards don't take that much, or don't cost a lot. The recommend friend thing, if you give out a certain business card, there was a point of touch there.
Yeah,
It was classy. It led them to my website, therefore gained more views on my website, that therefore went higher on Google. There was a few things that did like that, where it was like, right, this thing ties in this way, this way, this way, and this way, and it all just linked all together. The
yeah.
more things you can do like that, it's gold.
That's what I always say is like it's almost like a little bit of a pyramid. You're just sort of building and building, building the sides up, and then eventually it just keeps going towards a point where all of those
Yeah,
things come together.
but also like how you present yourself. So one of the things that sort of like led me towards this was, obviously I wanted to be a tour coach. I was like, okay, then so if I'm going to be a tour coach, then what does that look like from an appearance point of view? How I conduct myself? What's the communication before a lesson, during a lesson, after a lesson? What does a lesson environment look like? And I just started like that, and I just started writing it all out. And one of the first things was the tour coach wears the same brand from head to toe
Yeah,
because he's sponsored. So you know what? I just pretended. If anyone asked, I'd obviously be honest, but I was head to toe in the same gear.
yeah. So the look,
So I looked the part, and everyone was like, "Oh, so you associate with FootJoy?" I was like, "No,"
but I
but
love their clothes.
yeah, for whatever
No
reason,
plug for
yeah, really,
FootJoy there,
yeah, there you go.
but
Well, I mean, yeah, I wear Peter Millar now because I'm generally sponsored, but
okay.
it all goes hand in hand, right? And
Yeah.
the other thing too was brand association. So when I specialized in short game, I was like, okay, well, I actually had a staff pro shop contract with Callaway at the time. And I was like, well, Vokey are the best wedges. So I begged my sales rep to get in touch with the marketing guy at Titleist. I told him what I was trying to do. And I said, could you give me a fitting kit? And could you, support me if I was to put myself under the brand Titleist and Vokey? Now Aaron and Aaron said, yeah, right, fine. We'll give you a fitting kit and you can do it. So the idea of the fitting kit, you could have all the wedges there and, be able to fit you during your lesson if I felt something was better.
Hmm.
To be honest, it just sat on the side looking quite cool most of the time. But the idea was there. It's another
Yeah.
service that I had over the other guy.
It's
And
available.
it's available. And I made people aware of it too, because I always brought it with me. I looked ridiculous carrying all my bags around half the time when I started, but everything's all in the place now. And where was I going with this? So yeah, the idea with being with Voki is the fact that it was like, right, well, if Voki are trusting him, he must be all right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, that led into a long relationship, and now all of a sudden, now they're paying me to stay with
Yeah.
them. So
Yeah.
it doesn't start off like this. And I remember there was a connection that I taught that had good friends with Andy and Piers from Me and My Golf. And I asked about their sponsorship deals, and they said the same thing. They're like, oh, yeah, no, we approached Aldi, we approached TaylorMade, we approached Adidas, we approached AP because they're the brands that we wanted to work with. But none of them came to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
We all went to them with an idea of what we're doing, why we're doing it, and where we're trying to go. And then we asked if they were interested in just helping us out.
Yeah.
So yeah, and brand association with that is all of a sudden huge. Most of the videos that me and my golf do are with TaylorMade star people because of their TaylorMade connection.
Yeah.
So
It's that brand reputation, isn't it? Being linked to a brand, the trust that brings.
mm, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, you got to understand what type of person that you want to be or convey, and then you got to do them things. I know
Yeah.
that sounds quite simple, but once you write it out, it's actually quite a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's really interesting because the mindset you've got is sort of like, this is where I want to be. How does that look? What does it require?
Yeah.
and then you've gone there kind of thing. I really like that sort of also, how do I need to look? How do I need to behave? What technology do I need to have? Right down to the balls, the clothing. That's really, really interesting. Just coming a little bit back to your coaching, because I know it's always interesting for our listeners. What's the difference in coaching some of the best players in the world and the top players in Europe over teaching your club golfers?
Uh, how would you put it? So there's a difference between functionality coaching and training.
Right.
So functionality coaching is basically when the way I describe it is if you were to get someone more functional, they therefore get better at golf. But there's a point where you can now do it.
Yeah.
So if I asked you, Adam, to hit a high draw or a flop shot or hit a stinger, would you be able to do all three?
Yeah.
Okay, so functional golf lessons might not be your thing now,
No,
right?
they still would be, but
They could be, right?
yeah.
But how would you put it? The scale changes,
Yeah.
right? So a lot of people just think functional golf, functional. If I get that player more functional, he'll be better at golf, and that is so true until probably about five handicap, I would say. I'm putting a number on that, but it's around that, and then the scale starts to slip. Now, professional golfers or the best golfers in the world, they can do it. Generally, they can do it better than you.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit like, well, what on earth are you teaching them? Get that quite a lot, especially from people that don't know golf.
Yeah.
And this is where you then become a trainer. You can flick into an instructor if they become unfunctional, and you might want to make them aware of what makes them functional. You're generally a trainer trying to get the most out of them, get the most out of performance. And
Mhm.
then it comes back to again, like, well, what does that tour coach look like? What skills does he have?
Mm.
What do they know? And I wrote that out as well. I was like, shit, I need to know about psychology, the mental side, the performance side of it. I need to know about the tactical side of it. I need to know about the fitting side of it. I also need to know about the technical side of it regarding movement, biomechanics, but also then what short game coaches coach and whatever it is, right? So I went down every path and spoke to each person. And then I found out how to become a trainer. So this is another thing I had over people very, very early on, and I still do to these days because people don't want to do the work in it because they assume the fact that if you're going to specialize in short game, but in any part of the game, there's actually more to it, especially when you teach on much, much better players. And people just think, yeah, I'll know as much as I can about technique and this, that, and the other. But once they can do it, you're fucked.
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
way for you to go. So the layer and layer and layer of how to improve someone, all of a sudden you don't have it. Whereas the tour coaches do. There's almost like there's not a fucking ceiling to.
There's no ceiling to it.
Yeah, they know where 1% lie. They know how to look at them and expose them, and then understand then how to train that person into being better in that 1%.
Mhm.
And that's the big difference. You become a trainer when you start um, teaching better players.
So then you're improving more skill as or
Well, it can be skill, it can be preparation, it
yeah.
can be reading, it can be a heck of a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Also understanding how to make good choices under a stressful environment.
Yeah.
You know, there are things that I never thought I'd even think about, but it's so true.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I currently at the moment got one of my players going to Portugal, and I'm chatting with his manager, starting to trying to understand then how do we dedicate the next 2 weeks to make the most out of um, building his preparation better for the upcoming schedule. So we're looking at golf courses in weeks in advance. What makes a player really good around them golf courses? What does the player need? How do we then prepare for them particular tournaments then if you need X, Y, and Z? Can we create then practice structures around that, but also understand his weaknesses of, okay, you need to be a bit better in this area. Why? oh, that might be there for shot visualization, that might be a go-to shot, that might be just shot picking regarding risk and reward. The
Hmm.
list fucking goes on. But
Yeah,
it, what it isn't though sometimes is, yeah, just if you can get it here in your backswing,
just get it
it's
open a little
like,
bit.
yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just think the fact that a lot of people think it's to do with just that,
Yeah,
and they get and they also seek for better advice than that too. So, you know, a lot of people come to my seminars and they're like, yeah, but can you just teach me a bit about this and a bit about that regarding the technical aspect? And I'm like, yeah, but you're only asking that because it's feeding what you think you need.
yeah. And that's what separates then. It would have been one of my other questions, what separates the good coaches from the excellent coaches, but that's it.
Yeah, understanding the well-roundedness of what makes a score,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Being able to add those layers and layers and layers.
Yeah.
What have you what negative experiences, because you've had so much success and positivity in your young career, we'll call it. What negative experiences have you had that have made you a better coach? Is there anything that sticks out where something's happened and you've said that made me a better coach in one way or the other?
Uh, Not necessarily one thing, but I've had plenty. That's probably the reason why it's a blur. But I've had some like really dark days and things have not gone well. Uh, you know, you feel like you haven't improved the player, you made him worse, maybe. You know,
Mm.
that happens. It still happens now. I had one not too long ago, under, to be honest, I was excited to work with him and it didn't work. I've had a few things like that. And it just happens, unfortunately. But and I take it quite personally. But the thing is the fact that when you have them experiences, you sort of do something about it.
Yeah,
And with the successful stuff, you just pat yourself on the back and go, yeah, all right, sweet, let's enjoy that. You have a beer and you crack on, and you know you think you're on top of the world and you know everything, but all of a sudden you don't improve.
yeah.
So uh, there's not a specific thing necessarily, but there's definitely been failures where I've then turned around and gone,
Why?
why?
Yeah.
So how do I know have to improve that player? And then sometimes look for patterns. Like one of my patterns at the moment that I keep doing, especially with new recruitments on tour, is they want more shots and they want to know how to play this and play that. So I take them through my shot locker sort of like Bible, and then it's too much for them to handle within the middle of the season. And they go, yeah, probably not the right time and all the rest of it. And then I end up confusing and overwhelming them. And I've got to work on that. I've got to actually start to understand what they're actually asking for isn't actually what they're asking for.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
taken that quite literally.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's almost like actually remember this is a long journey. It's not by giving them the fucking book now and then hopefully
And
they
then
perform straight away. You know,
yeah. Yeah.
I'm getting overexcited with the idea of working with whoever. And that's a trap I've fallen into twice within this year. So then it's like, right, well, I'm really aware of it now. Okay,
No, it's
that's a
really, you've
specific
got
one.
that
But
reflection.
yeah, right. And I
Yeah.
think self-awareness is just the best skill you can work on.
Oh,
I worked
absolute
on it,
commodity. Absolute
yeah,
commodity.
worked on it really hard in COVID. Um,
Yeah.
and also reflecting on others and then again putting the other shoe, you know, on the other
Yeah.
foot and whatever. And I do that a lot. So I like to think the fact that I'm very aware of what's going on. I might not be, but I think I am at least.
But at least you're on the right journey. Even asking yourself the question is
Yeah,
already, yeah,
I think about it a lot. Yeah,
yeah.
I try to anyway.
Just going into sort of coaching as a whole, because you're in touch, you're on social media, you're in touch with the world around you in terms of everyday coaching. Um, are there any sort of trends at the moment that you don't like or you don't agree with, or other things that you're seeing at the moment that you think are sort of, negative to coaches and to the coaching industry?
Um, how would you put it? The thing I don't like is the general trend itself.
Right.
So how would you put it? The trends that have come around and that keep circulating is always right in a certain circumstance. So I'm not going to say anything's wrong because it's not. The problem is the fact that they're making it out like it's the answer.
Right. Give
So,
me an example. Give me an example of something with no names.
with no names,
Yeah.
all right. Because in my world, I get asked the same thing over and over again for at least the past year anyway, with the older 10 degrees down, please be steep sort of thing. And
Yeah.
and and it's right, depending on what you're talking about. If you're talking about trying to hit ball first, if you're trying to talk about moving your low point really ahead, launching it low with a lot of spin, yeah, perfect. Makes a lot of sense. You're dead right. Is that going to fit every single scenario and you're going to be able to play every chip shot from there? No, it's just a shot. So is it the key? No, no, not at all. But the thing is, though, is for the problem with trends is for that they're trying to sell you something.
Yeah.
And it's a good sales technique. I'll give them that. But what it is, it's a lot of fishing to the bait again. So what they do is they tell you part of an answer and then explain the full answer, and then they just leave you to then go in the comments. Why is that? How is that possible? And the
Mm.
engagement just fucking flows through the roof. And that's all it really is. It's stirring the pot almost, right? And and it's true, but there's details that they've left out. If you are trying to therefore deloft it 15 degrees for a low launching um, spinning shot, perfect. This is exactly how you do it. But also, if you're then steep and not taking a divot, well, why is that not possible? That's because your depth control is really good. Depth is different to therefore steep, but most of the time that gets lost in translation to
Hmm.
cause confusion. To basically then turn around and go, well, he's got the answer. He must know a thing that I don't know. So you gravitate towards them looking at their page and going, yeah, 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 that's it, he's got to be the guy to see. And it's fucking brilliant. It's a bit manipulating, and personally, I don't think I could do it because it's just against my moral code. But it fucking works.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So you can go down that line of it all. I remember when shallowing was a big thing. And again, trying not to name names. I know the coach exactly who I'm on about. Um, I can't say his name, but anyway, shallowing the absolute nuts off the club on the way down.
Yeah.
Successful player then does it. It goes through the roof. This, that, and the other. Well, he must know more than anyone else, so he must. I must go and see him. And then all of a sudden, the trend's gone now. But really, really trendy for a long time. But the thing is, it's like you're only giving half the answer, making out like the fact that this is the only way.
Mm.
It's then bred some sort of success, which is completely different to what the player that has been successful. That is a very different story to what they've been given,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is now circulating a little bit more. And then it's
Mm.
like, well, this is the thing. It's like clickbait, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not, none of it's wrong. It's just mistold to create activity.
And the solution, as it were.
And the
Yeah.
solution. Yeah, that's the thing. That's why I have a problem with trends. I don't actually
Mhm.
have a problem with the information they're giving. It's just not told on a full scale to
Mm.
create madness.
Like, obviously, technology today, um, there's tons of it. Something's coming out all the time. How has the advance in technology helped your coaching?
um how would you put it? The idea of technology is to give you an understanding of what you've just seen happen. So it's not like, oh, it must be this or it must be that. I remember going down my sort of biomechanics sort of era where I was trying to find the answer, right? Like we all do. And I got given the answer of, well, it's anywhere between this range and this range. And it was something like baffling, like 15 degrees of an area that I was looking at. I was like, okay, so there's no answer there.
It's
And it's
just a
like, well,
spectrum.
well, there is. It's here. That's the green box. If you're anywhere in between it, it's like no, well, it's just a spectrum. Not only that, there's no intent to whatever they're doing. You don't really know what they're doing here. You've just got a bunch of numbers with no actual evidence of what the hell they're trying to do. So if it's not relevant to flight and intent, then whatever numbers you're seeing is total bollocks.
Right.
That's the way I see it, because they're just numbers. They don't mean anything. But if you have a proper intention and a proper outcome, and then you can link the numbers, they're just proving on how on earth that was actually possible. So, for example, if I was to turn around to you and say, I'm going to hit a draw, and then I hit a draw, and I told you where I was going to aim, and all the rest of it, you've got a lot of detail there. Now, if you have, I don't know, let's say a trackman pointing at the flag and you aim right of it, your path's going to be right without even you trying to swing right. So, again, you're going to have to understand that. Hence, you've got to know that information before you even do it, right? So, the information is just basically clarifying whatever you've just seen.
Mm-hmm.
How has it made me better at coaching? It's just put a reference onto what I've seen. That's all,
Yeah.
really. And then if I'm seeing something that's not great, I would have a better idea of what is causing them impacts as well. So
Mm-hmm.
again, I'm looking at it and going, that's not very good. And I'm looking at the numbers, I'm going, okay, they're the numbers of what I've just seen, which
Yeah.
it isn't great. So
With the short game, would your players use the TrackMan or whichever piece of technology, launch monitor technology, when they're practicing certain shots, like with the full swing, where you've got a certain set of numbers that you know that you're probably swinging your best, the numbers look like X, Y, and Z, and when you're swinging badly, they look this way. Is there the same sort of correlation with short game or less so?
well, yes, there is. But the problem is that you're doing more of the ball. So, for example, like when you say I've got certain numbers, let's say for a quarter, for example, to be able to hit my little bleeder 7-iron, and it goes this distance, launch at this, spins like this, and these are my values of my club data. In order to do that, you're talking about a certain shot shape that goes a certain distance.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to do that for every single array of shots around the green? Probably not. You'd be there for a long time. And as soon as you go into the rough, then it's probably going to change anyway. So no is the answer to that. I think measuring a stock wouldn't be a bad idea, just so then you can do exactly the same thing with the 7-iron. And with pitching, I think it's really, really important, just because if you change the amount of loft that you hit it with, it makes a big difference in the not only the way it launches, but also how far it goes. So you can start to understand whether it's a club speed issue or a dynamic loft issue or a strike issue, but you can understand where the blame is of why has that ball come up short.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, use it a little bit, but as soon as you start varying things, I'm more or less making them understand what things need to change in order to create that flight.
Yeah.
I'm not going, yeah, you got to hit that in numbers all the time
Mm-hmm.
because
Because the
it's
variations are so much more now.
yeah, exactly. I'm not worried about them trying to keep the same. I'm much more trying to make them understand if you change this number, the ball will do this.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that'd be more the way I'd use it.
That's why my pitch shot from the deep rough always comes off the top of the club and short then, even though I think it's my 35-meter stock shot.
Yeah, that's an adaptation issue.
um, I think you've mentioned quite a few really golden nuggets already today. But if you were starting your career again, which wasn't, would you change anything for me? Would you change how you've done things, or are you sort of, done it the right way so far?
Would I change anything? Um, Yeah, I mean, there's definitely things I wish I could have done. At the same time, I wouldn't be where I am if I did.
Yeah,
Like, I always look at myself like I've been robbed of my childhood in in a coaching format. So I never really did that much, how would you put it, children coaching or amateur coaching in that
yeah,
sense, right? Didn't do a lot of that. Done amateur coaching, but not I would put it, children and
Juniors
teenagers.
and things like that.
Juniors,
Yeah.
that's the word I was looking for. Don't know
Yeah.
why I didn't come to my head then. There you go. That's how much I didn't do it. I forgot the name,
Can't
what
remember what
juniors
they're
were.
called.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I didn't do a lot of junior coaching, and I didn't do a lot of development coaching from because of all that. And then my ability to be able to see and explore and do things wrong got shorter and shorter because whatever I said all of a sudden started to matter more to people's lives
Yeah.
because it was all of a sudden their careers rather than, you know what, I've got all the freedom here to just have a bit of a play around with this idea here just to be a bit better. And I lost all that time because things almost went a bit too well, a bit too quickly. And now
Yeah.
I'm almost in a position where it's a bit like, fuck, I wish
Yeah.
I could.
What just happened?
Yeah, I wish I could just hold on, take a step back here. Let me just gather my thoughts together and put my systems in place again. Because, you know, over COVID, that's the one thing I did really well. I put my systems in place of what I knew and organized it in a way that made sense to me to therefore produce that I felt like I could get someone from a very basic I would put level to a really, really good level.
Mm.
Again, them layers. As time's gone on, uh, no ideas come into into the front of your mind, and then all of a sudden, then you're going right. Well, actually, I want to rejig this around.
Mm.
But the problem is, someone needs you next week, telling you X, Y, and Z to try and format their best. You don't have the time anymore. So if in a roundabout way, if there was one thing I wish I did, I wish I just took things a little slower,
Yeah.
just to
Yeah.
give myself a bit more time. I always feel like I'm running before I'm walking a little bit. And that's the
Catching up.
honest truth. Well, not necessarily catching up because people say, "Oh yeah, it's brilliant and this is good," and it's all original ideas. But it's almost like I just wish I had a bit more time to solidify them.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like I would have made less mistakes. But then again, if you make the mistakes, you do something about it and you learn
You
quicker.
learn from them.
So I'm in a catch-22, to be honest. But that's how I feel.
Let's move now a little bit to the business. I know you talked a little bit at the beginning about what you did to become very, successful very quickly. Um, what does a coach today need, to run a successful business? Now, I know we've mentioned quite a few things you did, but what does a modern successful coaching business look like in your mind today?
Okay, so let's just compare it to another part, right? So I'm going to go to the PTing thing,
Yeah.
right? So is it? I tell you what, if you get this book, all right, I don't read books. I've generally only read the first 30 pages, so this is a terrible example. But I got told to get this book, and it's called How to Never Lose a Customer.
Okay.
If you've ever read that, I don't know.
No, I haven't. No.
So it's about a dentist experience, and this guy hates going to the dentist like we all do. And he just goes through what an amazing experience at the dentist this was, and therefore he's going to go back.
Right.
And he then explains all the benefits of the fact that he's going to go back and what that does for the business because of the other things that it all sort of feeds into. Like I said earlier, the website, the reviews, not losing a customer, therefore you don't have to try and find another customer, long building relationships,
Yeah.
etc., etc. So
Lifetime value, etc.
yeah, exactly, right, exactly. And if you were to raise your prices, if you've had that person for X amount of time, generally he's probably not going to leave you because you've now got a more than an attachment of just a client. You're
Mhm.
probably their mate as well. So if you were to then go down like the PTing idea, right? When you go to for a PT session, if anyone hasn't had one as a recent, don't try it just for the sake of doing it, right? What is the environment like when you go in? The place is probably super clean. The equipment's pretty nice. They're all dressed in brilliant clothing. They probably smell pretty decent too. All right. So I know that sounds ridiculous, but these are things actually you got to think of. They probably offer you whether it's a free consultation, that's fine. But they generally sit you down and have a chat about your goals and what you want to do and how you're going to do them. And they do it in such just a brilliant way, whether that's on an iPad, whether that's on a laptop. They create a file of you in some sort of way, and they make it all prim and proper. So they are not just going, right, well, I'm going to see you today and never going to see you again. It's like, well, what's the journey here? What do you want to get in a year's time? How's that going to look? And they create this file of you, and they almost not necessarily trap you into the idea of the fact that you're going to see him all the time, but that's their intention. They've completely, how would you put it, sold on the idea of the fact that you're not going away anytime soon. So I'm going to completely invest in this idea of we're on a journey now.
Yeah.
And probably offer you a drink of water or coffee or whatever. You can have any drink you want. And then they run you through the steps. They really get to know you in the session. They're not just going, can you just do this? Can you just do that? They're a bit like a hairdresser at the same time. They're really getting to know you. They take your phone number, and then 2 days later they go and ask, how's your training been? What's this been like? How's your day? And all the rest of it. And they're constantly just touching points and points and points over the course of a week, 2 weeks. They're basically just giving a shit about you,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it goes a long way. Who would have
Yeah.
thought? This is why I don't like emailing lists, because you don't give a shit about anyone. You're just trying to hopefully someone clicks. How about you email them? It's not that
Directly.
hard. All
Yeah.
right, just directly. Yeah, I used to do this quite a lot when I figured this out. Every 2 weeks, put something in, contact the last 2 week people you
Yeah.
haven't seen for 2 weeks and ask how they're getting on. It's not that hard. They might not book in, but I tell you what, you get more bookings in from that than bloody an emailing list. And it
Yeah.
doesn't take nearly as long either because you're
It's
not
the
trying to create
personal
this.
touch as well, isn't it? It's the personal touch. You're thinking
Correct.
about
Just
them. You're thinking about them.
supposedly, right? Absolutely. And so from there, then you think about that journey that you just went through with that PT. What does a modern PGA coach need to do, or not PGA, not anymore these days, but modern coach needs to do? They need to do these things. They
Yeah.
need to be able to create an environment that is unbelievable for the person that they are looking to coach. They've got to be well engaged on the idea of what their long journey is and how to therefore deliver that and show them that. They've got to be able to be incredibly personable, reach out, and do all these touch points incredibly well while being a good coach.
Yeah.
And the touch points are the things that I said earlier too. It's like, well, a friend really wants to come and see you as well. All right, cool. Would you give him their number? Maybe. I don't know. I personally don't. I give him my website. Now, there's a couple of reasons I do this. One, it gets me a click on my website, so it goes higher in Google. Easy peasy. Two, it's got all the information there that they need. So if I'm trying to sell myself in an elevator pitch, the website does it better than what I can do on text. It's as simple as that. Number three is the way you actually come and see me is to book on there anyway. So it actually takes away another text message. There's actually less admin involved. So time's precious and all that. Do it through that. It's one less message. Four, I've actually got already like pre-programmed systems. So once they book in, there's a couple of things that they get to make sure the fact that then I've got the information I need. Also, again, it shows that I'm caring about what they are coming in for.
So
Right?
an automation on that. Yeah.
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 This is how you get to the golf club. This is the directions. Can you tell me what ball you're using and how can I help you about your golf? Tell me the past X amount, whatever it is, right? And then they give me an email. One, it lets me know where I need to be. It lets me know what equipment I need. It lets me know what their journey is and how I help them. And then from there, then when I then see them at the golf club, they know exactly where they're going. I see them with the correct equipment. I'm perfectly ready. Offer them a drink, and then I continue the conversation of whatever the email was. And then it's almost like I've already met the person. And then, I'm doing all these things better than the person next door because I'm aware of it. But also, the other thing about the website is the fact that I've got multiple services. So if they didn't know I just did X, Y, and Z, oh, now they do.
No, they do.
So I
Yeah.
might get 2 for 1 just purely because I sent them the website. And there's loads of things the modern golf coach needs to be better at. There's no doubt about it that they just don't know they need to.
Yeah.
But if you're a business selling, I don't know, cupcakes, right, round the corner, they'll probably look at their business completely differently
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you can't improve the cupcake.
Yeah.
All right. It's a cupcake's a cupcake. If it tastes half decent, all right, now it's just down to how well you sell it.
Hmm. Yeah.
And they'll probably then think of all these things, but you got to think of your golf coach in exactly the same way.
Yeah. That's great. That's really, really interesting. And that'll be a big wake up call for a lot of people watching this because I think a lot of people are doing some good things, but half of what needs to be done.
Yeah,
And that's how well, that's the feedback I get as well. That not the awareness that you need to be doing these things.
yeah.
Absolutely. What about education? We met because obviously we have you as part of our education program this year. Coach education. What do you think of it currently in terms of that sort of worldwide education that's available? What's coming from the organizations? What's online, YouTube, etc. What courses, certificates, and where do you think it's going? Coach education.
Uh,
Where does it need to go? In fact.
so people's perspective needs to change if it's going in the direction I probably want it to go. But then that's my perspective, so it's different, isn't it? Everyone's got an opinion. That's the problem. I don't think coach education is that bad. I know people slate it, but it's really not that bad. You need something, don't you? But the thing is the fact that people are trying to get educated on things they think that they want to be educated on because, they go, oh, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I quite like that.
Mm.
What do you need? They're two different things. I speak about this a lot regarding actual players hiring coaches. They normally hire the coach that they think they like, not the coach that they actually need. And the
Mm-hmm.
person that they need, slightly different. And actually, they're probably not going to like the idea, but it is going to probably make them play better. But it's the same in the golf coaching education world. So many people do education on things that they like. And as a result, then the coach education is completely geared around that.
Right.
And it's not making anyone any better. It's just tickling their ego. Everyone's just a bit more of a scientist. And it's like, well, you teach golf and you're trying to get someone to put the ball in the hole in less shots. So where's the bloody strategy and preparation, how to practice seminar?
Mm.
Oh no, there isn't one. I can't find one. Well, yeah, I don't know why.
This is boring. No one wants
There
to do
bloody
it.
should be. Yeah, correct.
No
Yeah,
one wants to do it. It's not
yeah.
exciting.
And it that annoys me because the goal of what people want to do versus then what people are trying to get educated more in don't bloody add up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where I think it needs to go. But people are continuously ignoring the things of what they need to achieve their goals versus what they want to do.
Yeah.
So golf education, problem is the fact that with the golf education system is you've got to sell your seminar or whatever you want to call it. And the only way to do that is to sell the thing that is that people are going to buy, and they generally
Just
buy things that they like. So
trending or they like it. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so is it ever going to change? I really worry because I don't think it will unless people's perspective changes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's amazing how much dry hand cream gets sold when you have dry hands, right? But you'd probably buy the nice scented one before until you have dry hands.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. So it's just the fact that but the coaches, but do they know what they need? That's that's the tough thing, isn't it?
yeah, correct. Yeah, no, they don't. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the problem with coaching players as well as golf coaches is they're not looking to understand what they need to know.
Yeah.
You know, I had someone today. Can you look at my golf swing? Because I'm teaching more full swing now these days. Can you look at my golf swing? I just want your opinion on it. What are you on about? Like, what do you mean? You know,
Do you think it's pretty?
yeah, like just what a shit question, you know? And I spent 45 minutes chatting to the bloke, trying to get down to the nitty-gritty of basically what this guy actually needed. He didn't need my approval of anything, but what he needed to understand is actually what half decent technique is relative to controlling his ball flight to make sure he knows where the bloody other ball's going.
Yeah.
And after a long conversation, it came down to the fact that he struggles to get the face shut. So the ball's always starting relatively straight or right. He is trying to fade it from there, which is a poor combo. So you either need to get the face stronger or swing more to the right. So then your miss is a bit more of a either a push or it draws back. And then it was like, yeah, but I'm not doing anything that is representing that. It's like, well, that's an issue then. But what you came for was, can you give me your opinion of what it looks like? The things don't add up.
Mm.
He's doing something because he's been told something. And it's like, oh, that's not any reason to do anything. It's like my mate jumped off a bridge because he told me to. I don't get it. But the thing is, we get given so much how would you put it? Um, authority to just say whatever we want. And we
Yeah.
also say these things with no consequence of what they actually mean.
Or
And
whether we believe in them ourselves.
yeah,
Yeah.
but also but the linkage more than
Yeah.
anything. You know, what do you want to do? Well, I want to stop hitting it out of bounds. All right. Well, if I make this guy look like this, will he hit it less out of bounds?
Mm-hmm.
If no, then that's an issue. And
Yeah.
it's like that. I want to coach better. I want to coach on tour. All right. Well, what are you trying to learn? Oh, what I'm trying to learn is on hack motion. If 2 degrees of ulnar flexion, ulnar deviation, and 2 degrees of flexion make a big difference in X, Y, and Z. But yeah, well, good because you need to know them things to a point, but they don't correlate to working on tour.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Not exactly, but it's a nice idea.
Yeah.
So all I would say with that is we've got these ideas of what we want, and then we're not asking how to get there.
Mm. Comes back to what we need.
Yeah,
Very interesting. Well, that was great. Thank you very, very much for taking the time to come on the podcast this evening. It's been great racking your brains. I knew it would be, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of very happy viewers out there who take a lot of stuff away with them. So good luck. I know we're going to stay in touch this year because we will see you later in September, I think, for your education day here in Switzerland.
yeah,
Looking
of
forward
course.
to that. Good luck until then, and thanks again. We'll catch up another time. And
Sounds good. Thank you for having me.
speak to you again soon. Thank you to everybody for listening, and I'm sure there'll be a good few things we can take away from this today. It's definitely in terms of how to build a very efficient modern coaching business, and also more importantly, going after the information you need rather than the information you want. So please look at also some of the other podcasts we've got, and as always, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you like what we're doing. So I wish everybody a good evening, and we'll see you on the show again some point. Thanks again, Alex.
Pleasure. No problem at all. Cheers, Adam.
Cheers.